Okay, so welcome. So today is going to be, again, pretty informal. But just quick, my name's Mackenzie. People call me Mac. Just kind of go this way, just quick intros.
My name is Ricky. People call me Ricky.
My name is Carrie.
I'm Taryn.
I'm Chris. And I'm John.
So we're going to be your primary coaches, but honestly, there's other coaches in the room. Like, this is just a group of people who help each other run. None of us are really experts. Lots of us have been running a long time, some not so much, and we all have wisdom to share. The goal for tonight, we want you guys to just get to know us a little bit, so then when you do have questions or anything like that, you feel you can reach out to us. So that's kind of the number one goal, is you just feel like you have some people you can reach out to if you need help. We're going to share our running journeys a bit. We're going to talk about the program, just what it looks like, what to expect a little bit, and some very basic advice. So focused on the main reasons people quit a running program, stuff we wish somebody would have told us when we started. So yeah. My thing's all messed up, so I think we are going to just move into our stories.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think Ricky's up first.
Yeah. How's it going? Good. So yeah, my name is Ricky, and I joined the Couch to 5K program in, Taryn and I figured out it was 2018.
It was 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I basically was like gently coaxed into it by Carrie, actually. I was on her massage table quite a bit, kind of complaining, kind of, had some worries in life. And she convinced me that running was definitely the answer. I was kind of a stress case. I had lost my mom. I was going through grief. I had kids. That's always stressful. And just life in general was just kind of tough sometimes. And what she convinced me was that running was going to push me through some of those low points if I could just get out the door and do it. And that this Couch to 5K program would definitely be the push. So it would be like the Wednesday night you would meet, and you would come with the group, and it would be awesome. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I did. And yeah, I definitely found that I had found a community. That was definitely a really cool thing. I really loved meeting with people every single Wednesday. It was a lot of fun. Kind of an unexpected thing that I didn't realize would happen so soon was that my moods definitely did go up. Every single time I went for a run, I just felt better. I could really see a difference in how I felt, stress-wise, mood-wise. My husband was like, awesome, you sound better, that's great. I guess the final thing, or the last thing, that was really cool about joining the Couch to 5K crew was the kind of like indirect impact it had on my kids. They saw their mom go and do something for herself. And that was really cool because one day I heard, I think it was my oldest daughter say to one of her friends, my mom's a runner, but she didn't say it like, my mom's a runner. She said it like, kind of like she was proud. And so what I realized was, oh, I was showing my kids a healthy way to deal with life, like stress. And it really just took lacing up some shoes and meeting a crew every Wednesday for a few weeks. And then the habit kicked in. And now I'm a runner. And a few years later, I completed a half marathon and went to do some ultra stuff in St. Paul, which was really tough. But besides all that, I just get to, my favorite thing is probably just running coffee. That's my favorite thing. So welcome everyone. I really hope that you enjoy the program and that you stick with it, and that we see you on race day, because race days are the best days. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
Stacey?
Okay. So Stacy is one of our past participants. We wanted her to be on this side, but her kids get in the way of Wednesday nights, so she's going to offer kind of like a Saturday as a second option if anyone's interested in that. And she's going to tell you a bit about her story and, yeah, where she is now.
Thank you for having me. So I'm Stacey Ann, or Stacy, and yeah, I moved to Lloyd in 2015 with my husband and our one son, and then quickly found out that I was super homesick, super lonesome, didn't know anyone, pregnant with our second baby, like what am I gonna do? And was one night perusing Instagram, and this is back in the day, found a post where we used to meet over by Pizza Hut, and so it said, oh, come and run, and I was a runner kind of before I had kids a little bit, but never fully consistent, and thought, you know what, I'll get into this, it'll give me a chance to meet some new people. And then they just can't get rid of me. So I've been here, and if you're ever looking to run, you'll find me, I'm at the back always, because I'm a little bit on the slower. I get the most out of my fees for when I register for races, because I take all the time. But you know what, it's not even about that. So similar, I can echo a lot of what Ricky had said, but yeah, you'll feel better. Your outlook on life will just be happier. My husband will say, like, do you think you should go for a run? I'm like, yeah, I probably should. So since moving here and finding the Couch to 5K program, I've done a lot of running, more than I ever thought, like over 1,000 kilometers a year, which was huge for me as a mom of 3 working full time. And I've made like my best friend here in town, Amy, who is so wonderful as well. And yeah, you're a great example to other people. So people will go by and they're like, hey, like, you know, wave to you, and yeah, you feel good. It's a great community. People are here for you if you want to do like super fast, super long, slow. If you want to walk and run, like there's always someone for you that is interested in doing something. And then there's coffee. We often meet and have coffee. And so yeah, it's just a really supportive group, and I hope everyone can stick with it, because the benefits certainly outweigh the hard times. So I would encourage you to stick with it, and if you have any questions, like everybody's really happy to help, and I see a bunch of my running friends in the crowd. But yeah, so slow, fast, you know, whatever. If you want to go long or short, we're here for you. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, Mac. Hi, Marie. My name is John. So kudos to all you guys for coming out tonight, because I definitely didn't come on the first Couch to 5K. I totally avoid the program, so tonight's my first night too. Basically it is. So my running story started all the way back when I was living, if you might pick a bit of an accent up, I'm Irish originally. I moved here about 23, 24 years ago. Where I grew up, we had nothing to do, so it was either sports, or running. Basically fell in love with sports and running. Moved over to Canada, and of course life gets in the way. So you stop running, you stop playing sports, things happen, life happens. My wife passed away in 2015. Went through some very dark times hearing Ricky talk about grief and moving to new places and finding stresses and different stresses that you find. Turned very, very inward, struggled mentally, struggled physically. Went to the doctor one day, and he gives me a really good wake-up call. He said, you got to do something, dude, or you're going to end up in trouble. So I'm like, okay, so what do I got to do? Got to lower your blood pressure, got to lower your cholesterol. It was like a list of stuff that you did not want to hear. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to get doing? I seen, here's a race, titanium race in Lloyd. I hadn't ran or put a pair of shoes on in I don't know how many years. Went to Sport Check, bought the cheapest pair of running shoes I could find, put on a pair of shorts and started going. No Couch to 5K, went to the 5K, nearly killed myself. I am never doing that again. Later that year, happened to have a discussion with Mac, and I was running up at Sandy Beach. And Mackenzie said, well, I'd love to get up to Sandy Beach and maybe see what the trails are like up there. He hadn't found those ones. And he started talking to me about ultra running and marathons and how the ultra running community is way nicer than a marathon community. What's an ultra? And he goes, well, everything past the marathon. Well, now I'm after doing 5K. I think, sure, let's try this. Maybe don't jump right to the ultras, but definitely try it. Look, my big thing for being here and my big thing about the running community is it is a community. Everybody here is very, very, very supportive. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. I walked into the doctor's office, I'm going to say about 7-8 months after I went in first and I got the fright of my life. And he looks at me and he goes, well, where's the rest of you? I've dropped probably 55, 60 pounds. And I go, well, buddy, I think you've got it. You've got to start on the training program I'm on. Right? So the thing about it is like, it's a great community. Take it slow and steady. Everybody up here is here to support. There's no such thing as a wrong question. Just come out, enjoy it. We're going to be getting into spring weather and stuff here. Paths are nice and clear. You're going to feel great for it, and it's going to be nothing but benefit in life. So look forward to seeing everybody out there and enjoy.
So I'm Taryn, I'm Mackenzie's wife, and I I can say I never would have started running if it wasn't for him. We moved here in 2013, and soon after that, Mackenzie started running. Through some people he met in Lloyd, they kind of encouraged him to get out and try it. And after he started, he kind of tried to nudge me along too, and I was like a firm no. Like, I've never liked running. Growing up, like, I played soccer, and I was always probably like the more active of the two, but I would always say like I hated running. So 2013 he started, and after a couple years of just kind of, maybe you should try it, I decided I was pregnant at the time, and then we had a third. But by the time I'd had our third, I had decided like that was it, I was ready. So over the couple years that he'd been running, I could see him, like, he was happier, he was getting out, he was being active, he was making friends. We were going to races, and they're just, like Ricky said, they are so fun. Like, they're just positive and encouraging, and seeing him kind of accomplish these goals that, we never thought, I never thought that he would do that was really exciting. And I had decided, like, yeah, I'd had enough, and I was going to start trying to. So when our third was 6 weeks old, I downloaded a Coach to 5K app on my phone, very similar to what we're using. And I took our baby out in the stroller, and I went for my first run. And it was hard. Every run was hard, but I followed the program exactly. It's 3 runs a week. And then if you do the run, you kind of move on. And if you struggle, then you can repeat or whatever. So I followed it exactly. And by the end of the 9 weeks, I could run 5K. So that was 2016. So 7 years ago, I've been running ever since. And because we had 3 young kids at the time, I was busy, right? So I started encouraging my friends, like, I think you should start running, then we can run together. And then we get out of the house, like, you get some quiet time away from the kids, or even if they're the stroller, it's still quiet. And then I'd get to socialize with my friends at the same time as I was being active. So that's kind of where it went from there. And pretty much now, all of my friends run. Over the years, they all started getting into it, which is really great for me. And like Stacy and Ricky said, we run first, and then we go for coffee. And that's pretty much a weekly, or twice weekly even thing now. So it's really, really good. And yeah, that's kind of how I got here. Looking forward to seeing all you guys over the weeks and where it goes from here.
So my name is Chris. I got into running a little bit differently than some of the other guys. I had a similar story, I suppose, to John as far as, and everybody else. It was stress stacking up. I needed a change in my life. I joined a weight loss program. I lost a pile of weight, and I was like, well, I'm going to start doing some stuff. I refound mountain biking, because I used to mountain bike when I was younger. I refound that, and like a sucker, I signed up for a 5K run, and no training, no nothing. Even in my youth, I didn't train for running. I didn't do anything like that. I said, I'm just going to go out and run. And the same thing as John, 5 kilometers, and I was toast. There was no way I was going back out again. And it was literally 3 days later, and I'm on the internet trying to find a run in Edmonton to go to. It kind of snowballed from there, and I was like, well, this would be a lot funner if I had some people to run with. And because at that time, I was a pretty deep workaholic, didn't have a lot of friends, didn't socialize a whole lot. And I said, well, you got to make a change. And I was like, well, Facebook, there's always people on Facebook. Let's start up a little bit of a group. And we tried out a Saturday run, and Mac and a couple other people was our very first go at it.
So when he says we, what he means is he created the Lloyd Runners group because he wanted people to run with. And he just blatantly is like, Saturday, I'm meeting here. And everyone's like, what? And that's how
we're doing it, yeah. So it was great. And there was obviously other running community members that was already doing it. I just didn't know any of them, and I didn't know where they met, and I didn't know any of the details. So it was great. Since then, we've turned it into something more of what you may know as Lloyd Runners is right now. We try to host race in the summer months, and sometimes in the winter as well this year, as well as our big thing that we offer back to the community is these Couch to 5K programs, because we do see that it's extremely beneficial. Maybe for not everybody just wants to jump in 2 feet and just go through the pain and agony of biting off these giant pieces to try to get up to 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, whatever your goals are, but to ease into it through a structured program and some good guidance from grassroots people that has gone through this many times, because we all enjoy the spring, because winter is over, it's time to do the Couch to 5K again. We all run at different distances, paces, everything, so we try to benefit the community through running, try to increase the mental health as well as the physical health. As runners, we also have to be pushy towards our friends to get them out and get them running, because that's the only job that we have, is that we have to recruit more people to become healthier and active through running, or just even getting outside. And we say running means crawling, walking, jogging, whatever it is. When you go to run a 5K, let's say, race, if you stop to walk, you're still in the race. You're still running at 5 kilometers, you're just doing it at a slower pace. So never get caught up in speed, distance, anything. If you can do it safely and efficiently and have fun doing it, you'll meet other people of like-minded mindsets as well. And that's when it becomes very fun, because through all of this, I got to meet a lot of people that's in this room and become friends with them through the running community. So yeah, so that's kind of what I have. I don't think I have anything else. That's all I got.
So, again, I'm Mackenzie. You heard a bit from Karen, but my fitness journey started 10 years ago when we moved to Lloyd. So when we moved here, I was working in the human services field for about 4 years. I worked in group care and then as a frontline child protection worker. Sorry, you guys heard my story. It hasn't changed. It's the same story. When I moved to Lloyd, I heard a statistic about working for the government and working in child protection, and it's pretty crazy. It's that most people that we hire, and these are people that have gone to school generally for 4 to 5 years, many of them with a goal of working in this job, we retain them for an average 2 years. It takes 5 years to learn the policy and legislation and really the practice, but we keep people 2 years. That was hard for me because I was like, I kind of want this job already. This is a good job, I'd like to stay here. And when I looked around, what I realized was the supervisors, the managers, the directors, the people that were still there, they all had self-care plans. So some of them were runners, some of them lifted weights, Some of them hung out with friends every Wednesday, but we all had something. And when I looked at myself, I didn't have any of that. Like, I was pretty stressed out. I was kind of at a point about the 2-year mark that things weren't going good for me anymore. And don't get me wrong, I had a great family life. I loved my wife, I loved my kids. Like, that was great, but I dreaded getting up for work in the morning. And Sundays, like, I hated Sundays because all I could think about was going to work on Monday. So, and the worst part, so like, as a civil servant working in child protection, we are honored with working with our most vulnerable people in society, and if we don't have the right people in that job, it's bad. We need the right people. And what I was finding was I wasn't really caring anymore, and I had lost that passion, so something had to change, because that's dangerous. That's dangerous practice. So, also, like, I love my family and my kids, but I was having a hard time being present, because I was just thinking about work, thinking about not wanting to be at work, or it just wasn't going well. So I knew something had to change, and I decided, we just moved to Lloyd, and I'm like, okay, like, if I'm making a big change, I just moved here, I can make multiple changes, like, I can do this. So I decided I was gonna start swimming. I liked swimming as a kid, I thought, and I hated my lunch breaks. I wanted to be done work. Like, I hated that hour lunch. And I figured I can go there, swim, have a shower, and be back at work in an hour. I can make this happen. So what I did differently though, because don't get me wrong, I had tried to get in shape probably a dozen, 15 times in my 20s. And I always was trying with the goal of, like, I want to lose weight. I want to get toned. Everyone's heard that, but I don't know what that means. But that was the goal, and when I never attained it, I always quit really quickly after. So this time, I decided I was going to do something differently. And what I did, and you'll hear me ask you this if you're running with me, as a good solution-focused practitioner, I ask myself the scaling question. And so what that means is, like, so on a scale of 0 to 10, there's a lot of reasons we ask them, and I will bore you about this if you run with me. But I just said, 0 is this real, I feel really terrible right now. Like, I really feel bad. And 10 is, I feel amazing. It's a really simple question, and I forced myself to ask that before and after I go for a swim. And what I found is every single time my number went up. So that kind of encouraged me. The days I didn't want to go, I thought about, wait a minute, I feel better after, so I started going. So then, if you know any of the athletes in Lloyd, the hot tub is full of triathletes at lunch. So I'm sitting there, and those guys, just like Bogue said, their job is to recruit you. So they are like, so you're swimming. So they pull you in. So they were talking about triathlon, and I remember the one guy, Ross, who's like a staple in the fitness community here. He was talking about Ironman triathlons. And it's this crazy race where you swim 4K, you bike 220, or 180, sorry, and then you run a marathon. I remember telling him, yeah, like in a few days, right? And he's like, no, like that's in one day. And I could not wrap my head around it. So anyways, winter is swimming with those guys. In the spring, I decide I'm gonna start running because I was so intrigued by this. So I started running. I'm not following this all. So I started running, and it hurt. It sucked. Like, I remember my first run thinking like my knees were gonna like pop off or something. But I did it, and I probably went way too hard too. Like, I started with 5Ks because I was swimming. I'm like, I can swim. I should be able to run. It doesn't work like that. But I kept scaling myself, and what I found was not only did my number still go up, it went up a little higher. So for whatever reason, a little higher than swimming. Running worked better for me. So I kept doing that. I kept running. And what ended up happening was my life kind of just got better. I started being more present with my kids. Part of it is like I had a little bit of fitness. I could shovel and not have to go lay in bed for an hour. But I was able to be like active with my kids. I was being able to be present with them and more in the moment with them. I think I started doing more around the house. I was happier, like you said. And at work, I started, this is the most important thing, I started caring again. And I was able to do my job right, the way that my clients deserved it. So that's kind of my story. Since then, like in terms of work, I became a better worker. I got more done, I had better outcomes, I was just a better employee, and I've been lucky to have a great career where now I'm a practice implementation manager, and I work with a team of specialists to implement the best practice that we know of in Alberta. So, and I'm very blessed to have that job. In terms of my fitness, I go up and down. I got years where I'm in better shape and a little slimmer, but I did a bunch of half marathons, did a bunch of triathlons, I did a bunch of half Ironmans and a couple marathons, a bunch of ultra marathons. And last year I did my dream and I finished an Ironman. So, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie. I've been a runner for about 21 years now, well before the internet. Back in the days when you had to try to pick up a book that was out there that maybe talked about a little bit of running, there might be a running magazine that you could get that talked a little bit more. So I didn't have an environment like this learning how to run. My story was exactly like Ricky's story. I started running through grief. I lost my mother in a tragic accident, and a friend of mine noticed my depression. And she was a runner herself, and she encouraged me to just try. So I decided I had to do this. I had 2 small children at the time. I wasn't in a good way. I wasn't making work. And I hit the path, and very quickly I started hearing the birds sing again. My mindset started changing. I started seeing a purpose in life again, because at that time I wasn't even sure, how does the world function after something like that? How do I do this without my mom around? So it's the same kind of trend that you've heard throughout today, where your mindset quickly changes, and that's the beauty of running. It's given me the ability to show my family what mindfulness can do, and when you take care of your mind and your body, what you can attain when you set goals. I got sucked into the marathon world and have done several marathons. I dabbled once COVID hit, and the marathon scene was cut dry. I dabbled into some ultra running. I ended up qualifying for Boston right when COVID hit, so I never did get to run the Boston experience, but I got to run it from Kitscoty to Lloyd and had the community out to support me with that. That was so much fun. This community is great. They mimicked the Scream Tunnel. If you Google the Boston Marathon and some of the history of it, there's a lot of really neat videos in regards to the history, and the Scream Tunnel is one of them. Well, these guys are out by the airport road, lining the road, screaming their heads off. So yeah, the community here is great. I've met a ton of wonderful friends through it all. I've raised my children here through this scene, who all love the community as well. And last year, both my kids are adults now. And last year, my 21-year-old son says, "Hey Mom, do you want to, let's do this road bike for breakfast, 180K, want to do it?" Okay, so we get out on the road and we attacked 180K, and I couldn't have done that if it wasn't for years of training and knowing how to push myself, and as well as the nutrition part that comes with it as well. So it's neat to do stuff like that with your family, especially as they get older and adults now. I'm not getting any younger, so it's a little harder to keep up with them, but I still think I do a pretty good job. Why I continue to run and do this type of environment is I have goals of, we're mountain people. We love going to the mountains and hiking and being in nature and woods and being with the family out there. So those are always my goals. It's more for just wellness. I'm beyond the stage of going after times and I don't need that race environment anymore, that's for sure, but it did suck me in. I loved it at the time. But yeah, nowadays it's more for wellness. So I'm going to keep my story short here. I always make people cry when I tell my story, so I said I wasn't going to do that tonight. So that wraps it up for me. Welcome, everybody.
Okay. So if you guys all registered tonight, then you got an email with all our Facebook groups. We have 3 Facebook groups and our Facebook page and Instagram page. So the Facebook groups, there's one in particular for Couch to 5K. It's called Lloydminster Runners pureREVIVAL C25K or something like that. So if you have any questions specifically to Couch to 5K, feel free to post in there. Or if you're looking for people to run with and you're wondering if anyone wants to meet you, feel free to post in there. Carrie has some kind of good videos on like shoelacing and things like that. So that's somewhere where you might find those. And if you have any questions, like you're just looking for a general audience, like those are good places to go to. We have a general Lloydminster Runners public group that any of that kind of those questions are welcome as well. And our third group is a challenge group that runs every month. And every month someone in the community runs it. And it's a little bit different, but generally if you are doing the Couch to 5K and you're running 3 times a week, you can join and follow in on the challenge. There's usually free prizes at the end of it too, so it's totally up to you guys, just for some extra motivation if you're looking for that.
You want the structure? Okay, so I'm going to discuss the structure of the program itself. At the very beginning, it doesn't take as much time. We're not doing the big distances, the 5K distance, so definitely plan to be out in Bud Miller. We always meet at the pool entrance outside there. We'll meet there about 5 minutes to 6 o'clock. Yeah. And what we do is we'll head south at the south end of Bud Miller Lake to do a little bit of a walk warm-up, and then we stop and stretch. And then typically the run program goes for about 20 to 30 minutes to start off with. The first couple weeks of the program alternates walking and running for short periods. It's more walking than running. And then once we hit that 3rd week mark, it transitions into manageable chunks of jogging, where you're jogging a little bit more than walking. And it's in that 3rd week where we see a change in people's attitudes. Like they finally start feeling like running is a little bit easier once you hit that 3rd week, and it could even be at the end of that 3rd week. The first couple weeks could be rough for you. Shin splints, calf cramping, ankles hurting, that's all normal. We have to build up some strength in those first couple weeks, so that's why we go slower at it and introduce more of the walking. By the 4th week, that brings a whole new motivation when you stick with the plan. You finally feel like things are connecting, this is working. You're more encouraged to set out goals and stick with your plan. We do suggest to do about 3 runs a week, but you definitely don't have to. It all depends on your work week and life, whatever is happening in your life.
don't stress about it. If you can only get 2 runs in or 1 run in or no run in that week, you won't fall behind. You can always pick it up towards the end of the program too if you're winning. But yeah, it's usually within that 4th week that you start really noticing what the plan is doing for you. You just got to stick it out. The 5th week, we reduce the dependency of walking, and this increases. We're doing about 3.6 kilometers at that 5th week mark, which roughly takes about 25 minutes to 40 minutes depending on your speed. So we're going about a 3.2 kilometer run at that point. So very little walking and more running. And then the last few weeks we eliminate walking altogether and we're running. So that what would that be, the 8th week, where we have a little bit of walking. It's mostly 4K run by that point. And then by the end of the 9 weeks, you're running your full 5K, and you shouldn't have to walk at all. But once again, this is a Coach to 5K program, depending on where you're at and life circumstances. And if you had a few weeks where you couldn't get your runs in, it's okay to be walking and running by that 5K. I can't remember who said it. If you're maybe John, if you're walking that 5K race, you're still accomplishing 5K. So that's the goal of this Coach to 5K.
Okay, so we're doing great for time. So we're gonna talk about the main reasons people quit or fail in a running program. Then we will do questions. So the three big reasons is injury, not achieving personal goals, and having too much stress. And we're gonna talk about stress, not just life stress, but body stress and all that stuff. So in terms of injury, there's a few solutions, but sometimes we get injured. The program's designed that it's nice and slow, and both going to talk about gentle progression, but it's designed that way so our bodies can slowly adapt. But some of the solutions is having proper gear, adequate recovery. So we actually do recommend, this is a 3-day-a-week program, we recommend you stick to 3 days a week because your body's recovering in the time you're not running. And in terms of gear, it's hard for us to give gear selection. In my experience, if somebody comes up to you and says, you need to wear this, you need to wear that, don't listen to that guy. Because you need to find out what works for you, and what works for somebody might not work for you. So we do recommend issue fitting, things like that. And I didn't know, I was actually, like John, I got the cheapest pair of shoes at Sport Check, and it gave me a good base that I knew what I liked and didn't like about them, and I knew where to go from there. But it's kind of tough at first. If possible, but it's not a deal breaker, you will be more comfortable in non-cotton fabrics. So proper, like a polyester shirt, running type stuff, but it's not a deal breaker. Don't feel you can't come because you're showing up in a t-shirt. You won't be the only one. I ran a t-shirt my whole first year, so don't worry about it. The other thing, the first couple weeks are tough because it's kind of winter out there still. And it usually changes real quick getting into April. But every year, what we find is people show up and they're shocked how little we're doing. People show up just bundled up for the weather, and not long into the workout, they are peeling layers off, just dying. So general rule, go out dressed a little cooler than you would if you're just going outside to hang out. It's generally better to be a little bit cold the first 5 minutes than sweating terribly the rest of the workout. So yeah, Chris, gentle progression.
Yep, sure. So to add to Max, people overdressing, I think it was one of the very first runs that I tried hosting with the Lloyd runners. I was wearing a sweatshirt, and I think we were 3 kilometers in, and really I didn't know what I was doing, so it was leaking at this point. I was oh yeah, that's why we can't do this. But yeah, it's very true. When you go out, you always want to make sure you feel cold when you start, and then essentially you warm up from there. Gentle progression. We're going to experience gentle progression within this program, as you see over the 8-9 weeks. We start off with really small distances and then obviously work our way up to 5 kilometers. Past that as well, if we were to go increase distance beyond the program, it doesn't happen fast. It doesn't happen right away. You kind of add a couple of kilometers per week or how you feel, and it's really a roller coaster up and down. But you don't want to, the same way that you just don't want to leave here and go out and run 5 kilometers home, because you might not feel great in the morning. The same thing, even after you have 5 kilometers under your belt, trying to leaps and bounds these distance markers is not a good idea. So we have help and pointers with that as well to be able to increase those distances. But for right now, by following the program, as the program is prescribed, then within 8 weeks, then we can get you up to this 5 kilometer mark. The nice thing with the way that the program is aligned is at the end of the program is actually our titanium race. So it's one of the mainstays that we have within our community, where people from our Couch to 5K group and other athletes alike can come out and actually really showcase what they've done and kind of solidify the progression and have a little bit of a reward there afterwards. I think we do a fine job of having a great environment out on race day and getting everybody hyped up for it, because everybody is only racing against themselves for the most part, and seeing those accomplishments come to fruition, crossing a finish line after a long program is always a really good thing, and knowing that you can do this and maintain your health and make sure that you have no injuries is always really nice as well. So I can't stress enough the gentle progression throughout the program prescription, and then continuing on afterwards in smaller baby steps will ensure that you can do this for years to come and start to get some of those really great benefits, like the benefits that we've talked about today.
I'm just gonna talk a little bit about adequate recovery. When we're out running, like I mentioned earlier, we do just a brief stretch to begin with before we start running. But that has to come after a little bit of a warm-up, and that's why we walk to the south side of the lake to give us that little bit of a warm-up, and then we do a little bit of a stretch. Then you go out and run, and then most importantly after your run is when you do your thorough stretching. In this program, we find a lot of people struggle with shins and calves and more leg stuff. So that's probably the area that you want to focus on a little bit more when you are doing your stretches. There's lots of information out there, so I won't go through all of that, but calves, hamstrings, and shins are good stretches to look up. And if you need help, I'm here to help you out as well. I can suggest some. Another good thing, foam rolling. I love using a foam roller or even a tennis ball to get into certain areas and use that to massage out your muscles. It's good. One of my addictions, actually Ricky taught me this years ago in our yoga and running. I love after a run going home, laying on the floor, scoot your bum up as close as you can to the wall and have your legs up the wall and just hang out there. You can go on your phone, you can check out your Strava and all that. So that's a wonderful way to recover as well. Hydration. A lot of people ask about hydration. You want to make, in the Couch to 5K, you really don't need to bring water to drink while you're running. It's more important to hydrate previous to the run and then hydrate after. For a Couch to 5K, if we were getting into hotter climates, I might suggest it, but in this particular run, you really don't have to bring a water bottle out for the run, but have it be well hydrated previous and then focus on it after.
So moving on to our second reason is not achieving goals. So it's important to set proper goals. You heard my story. I failed a lot when I was trying to lose weight or tone up, things like that. So it's important to set achievable, sustainable goals, and really just find your purpose. Like, why do you guys show up tonight? What are you trying to get out of it? We're just going to share our goals, so you know what we do. You know mine. 10 years later, I just want to feel a little bit better, and it still works for me every time. So, Ricky?
Our current goals in running?
Yeah, or just
what our goal
any
is?
goal. What's your goal for running?
Well, I guess my goal for running when I started was mainly stress. I just wanted to feel better. I wanted to know if this running thing really did work for stress, and it did. So that was my goal.
I think my goal these days is just to be adventurous and be able to keep up to my family.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that I didn't expect out of this running either, is that just it's so much easier to do stuff with your kids than to be active. And we like the mountains too. I've climbed mountains now, like that kind of stuff I never would have thought of before. And I've done half marathons for the last few years now, and someday I do want to do a marathon, but I'm just not ready to put that much training time in yet, but one day.
My goals is I want to finish my 100K race. That's my biggest goal.
This is the year.
Yeah. Maybe this year, who knows? But yeah, that's finding out what human limitations is. That's what attracted me to some of this running as well, is going, like Max said, it's like, wow, an Ironman all in one day. Well, I got introduced through YouTube. And finding out what like some crazy limits were, because after the 5K run, I went and did a 10K one. It was like a week after, and then I sitting at lunch one day, and I ended up watching this video, and they were running 100 miles. I was like, what? I was like, it's impossible. And the same thing, I was like, well, it's going to be over a week. No, they just go out and bang those things out, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, so finding out limitations and find out what you can actually do with yourself, and through perseverance training and stubbornness. But yeah, that's my goal, is to finish 100K. I think it's pretty cool.
Stubbornness definitely works good.
Right.
I so wish I had come to Couch to 5K before I started doing my running journey, because I would have learned a hell of a lot. I did so much wrong. I started off at the 5K, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I could do a 10K. Yeah, sure, so we could do the 10K. The next thing is the half marathon. And we have one of our good friends in the running community. He did a couch from couch to 5K to literally 100K in the same year, Amro. Of course, him and I started running together, and I attempted to do that. And as Mackenzie said, like, grow, and Carrie had mentioned, grow into it. Don't hurt yourself, because I did, and I ended up having to take a whole summer off and pretty much a whole fall off. And then, of course, I kept setting those goals, and like what Chris is talking about, I managed to finish 100K this year, and you definitely, you definitely learn how stubborn you are, because I remember right at the beginning of it, we're running out of St. Paul, and Mackenzie says to me, you know, Ross, he struggled on his first year doing this, and he walked pretty much the last 2 legs. I'm thinking, okay. So I get to the 3rd leg, and I'm dying, like walking out of that aid station. And then I remember what Max said. I said, well, shit, I've got 2 down. I'm going to walk the last 2. And still managed to get in before the 20-hour cutoff. But setting goals for yourself, it's definitely, for me, it's setting and putting a challenge in front of yourself, and just realizing that you can achieve it. Anything you want to set your mind to, and running, going out there to run, I think I've solved more problems, and I've solved more mental issues for myself and more problems for myself than I ever have sitting in an office or sitting trying to figure stuff out for myself. So that'd be my goal for the year, is just more personal development in running, and look forward to seeing you guys do it too.
Oh, you want me to share?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So my goal is just to be happy. That's all. I really believe that grouchy people don't run, because if you're grouchy and then you run, then you end, then you feel happier. So I don't know. That's just me. I just like to, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, yeah, all the other things too, you're good you know, my goal is to be a good example for my children. My dad had open heart surgery twice. My genetics are crap. Like, you know, that's all good too, but really it just makes me happy. So, and I feel like I've met a lot of other people and they feel the same. It just makes you happy. So that's my goal, just to be happy. So I highly encourage it.
Did you want to do too much stress?
Oh yeah, okay, sure, I can talk about stress. I feel like I need a chair. Okay, so where to begin with stress? I'll keep it short and sweet because it kind of all blends in together with what we've touched on before. But with running, obviously the physical stress, right, on your body. So important to take the rest days, listen to your body. I learned that the hard way, just like John said. I had to take almost a full year off running because I damaged my plantar fascia, and I had to take time off work even because I just pushed way too hard. I was really stressed out with work, with my family, and then with the stress I was putting on myself with running to keep up to other people and their goals. If they're running a marathon, I should be able to run a marathon. I did the same 5K, coached 5K program as them, blah, blah, blah. Like, that is the total wrong approach. It's easy to get tied up into that and to stress yourself out to want to be doing what Tom, Dick, and Harry are all doing. But it's your journey. It's you versus you. It's designed to be a stress relief. So are there some days where I have on my agenda that it's a run day, but I've had a crap day at work, I'm exhausted, my kids are sick, whatever, and I get home, I put my running gear on, I say to my husband, I'm going for a run, and it just doesn't feel like it's gonna be good, I take my running gear off, and you give yourself that grace. So it's not designed to be stressful that way with all your other stressors. It's okay to just take a day or a week or whatever you need, and you can always pick it back up. You've heard from a lot of us, we've been in and out, sometimes we run more, sometimes we run less. It's something that you can always just get back into, and that's okay. And along with that, I feel like if your body's crying for that break, then you're going to be taking that break and less likely to injure yourself. So I really feel one of the biggest lessons I've learned, yeah, listen to your body. And I am not your typical looking commercialized runner person, and that hasn't stopped me from doing anything. So don't put stress on yourself about needing to be anything other than who you are and what you are, and set your own goals. I've sometimes run 2K, I've done half marathon, I've done trail running now. Like, you push yourself, but you have to be aware enough and give yourself grace to know when the stress is just getting to an unhealthy level. And if you're kind of toying with that idea, like, you can talk to anyone in our run group honestly, and we will all have something to hopefully advise you or help guide you, or just to help you self-reflect to say, like, is this really #1 priority right now? Or can I give myself a little bit of grace and pick it up in a few days? And that's okay. So that, I feel. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anyone? No? Thanks, guys. Thank you for your time.
I just going to talk closing remarks and questions. So just final closing remark before we just ask if there's any questions is just about speed. So when I was in gym class, it was always like, go as hard as you can all the time growing up. And turns out it's not like that. Actually, the science doesn't support that. And the best runners in the world do 80% of their running at a pace where they can have an easy conversation. So we're going to be encouraging you guys to run at that pace. And it might not seem like you're moving very fast, but you're moving faster than the guy sitting on the couch. So just keep that in mind, that we're trying to, when we're finishing our intervals, you shouldn't be you should be tired, and it should be hard. But if you're totally gassed and dying, you probably went a little too hard, and someone will stay back and go a little slower with you. It's just fine. But I say this every year, and then every year people come to me, I think I'm not running fast enough. And I say, stop saying that.
I asked him, like, second or third week, how do I get faster? And I think he was like,
If you figure that out, let us know.
Yeah, and
sorry.
the Red Deer runners have a nice quote. They say, fast or slow, we want to run with you. So, yeah, we should adopt that.
We should.
So that's it, guys. Questions?
For a minute, I'll just talk about next week.
Oh.
So next week, like Carrie said, we'll meet just before 6 o'clock outside the pool. In the email, it talked about the app we use, the C25K by Zen Labs. And next week, we're going to start week 1, day 1. So if you download the app and open it up, you press the button, and it tells you when to walk, when to run. So we're going to follow that exactly next Wednesday. If it's a little cooler, like they said about dressing, I cover my ears and my hands. So like a thin pair of gloves, something over your ears like a headband, a light jacket, and you promise you'll warm up quick.
No questions?
We'll see you all at 6 o'clock next week.
We're going to hang out a few minutes if people have just want to chat or have questions in the same
Oh.
group. So, oh yeah. To register for the Couch to 5K or the app?
To register.
Yeah, we closed it yesterday because I didn't have time today to send more emails. So just give us your email address and we'll send you the email that we sent out. Sorry, it's tough fitting this in.
So we just leave our email with you, like right now, in order to register?
Yeah, well, to be honest, like, you just need to show up now. Like, we might send the odd thing about if something's changing. The biggest reason we wanted people to register is so we could send you that email so you have our contact information and so you have the program. Like, our best hope is one of our stories resonated with you and you feel comfortable a little bit reaching out to somebody if you have any questions at all.
What about cramping up running?
So,
What about that? What do you prefer?
well, it can be a bunch of reasons.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It could be
well,
baby.
we can,
Yeah.